Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. Is anybody there? Yeah, if you can hear me.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
So, I haven't used this software in a while, so give me a moment. Okay. So, how's everyone? Just came online to discuss something that was bothering me, and that was the Formula One World Championship, which took place, well, the final race took place in Abu Dhabi. Or as people who don't speak Arabic will pronounce it Abu Dhabi. It's very busy tonight. Anyhow, you had Red Bull and Mercedes. You had Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Final race of the season. To see who wins the World Championship. And who do you think won? Well, we know the result, but it was Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen and Red Bull won. Now, was it a fair victory? Or was it a robbery? Everybody knows the answer to that question. Lewis Hamilton, in spite of starting second on the grid, because Max Verstappen had the pole position, Lewis Hamilton managed to have a better start than Max Verstappen and took the lead. Max Verstappen tried to jump his way down the inside, pushing Lewis Hamilton off the track. That's his usual technique, right? He jumps down the inside and pushes his opponent off the track. I mean, that seems to be the only thing Max Verstappen knows how to do. I mean, people talk about how talented he is, but all he ever does is throw himself down the inside, pushing his opponents off the track. That's like one talent. He's not talented or skilled at managing his tires or his engine's performance. He just goes all out and doesn't give an inch. And this put Lewis Hamilton at a slight disadvantage coming into the race, because although they supposedly had the same score, what was it, 395.4 points or some score like that, they each had the same score. Yet Max Verstappen was slightly at an advantage because, well, so in other words, if they were both to fail, if neither of them were to finish the race, Max Verstappen would be the world champion because he had a slight advantage for some other reason. Maybe because he won more races. So although they had the same points, he had more races or more race wins than Lewis Hamilton, which meant there's a more of a weighting on his performance. So he would become crowned world champion. Now, Lewis Hamilton led the whole race pretty much. He overtook, the back markers. He led the whole race. And then someone called Latifi, he had an accident which brought out the safety cars. Now, who hit? Someone called Mick Schumacher. There's a big story behind it. Mick Schumacher, I believe, was involved in hitting Nick Latifi and causing the accident. But prior to the race, he was saying that if there's anything he can do to prevent Hamilton overtaking his father's record of 7 world championship wins, then he would do it. So let's not forget this. Lewis Hamilton with 7 world championships is, like, I believe that's the same number of wins as Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher is considered by many to be the greatest, Formula One world champion, or the greatest driver in history. But this was now the opportunity for Lewis Hamilton to pass, to supersede, to excel, to whatever the word is, to go past Michael Schumacher. Now, do you think that the world wants to see Lewis Hamilton as the greatest world champion in the history of Formula One? Is that something that you believe they feel is acceptable? Or do you think they will do anything? When I say the world, I'm talking about people in the elite of our societies. They're happy to have Michael Schumacher as the face of, the greatest driver in history. The blonde-haired, white-skinned, Aryan race, the vision of Hitler. What was it that Hitler used to say? How did he describe the Aryan race? I don't remember. But Michael Schumacher sort of fits that characteristic. Now, Lewis Hamilton, he's a mixture, a concoction of different flavors of, skin and ethnicity, right? Now, and his father wasn't a wealthy man. He wasn't an ex-world champion. And on top of that, for the past year or two, Hamilton has been leading this Black Lives Matter thing at Formula One, right? Making all the drivers go on their knee, changing the Mercedes color from white to black, starting some sort of movement. He's got some sort of charity that he set up where they're trying to help push BAME people into STEM sciences or whatever, like subjects, STEM subjects, like science, to get into these jobs. Because if you look at a team like Mercedes or McLaren, I'll give you McLaren as an example. Go to Woking, right? Woking is where McLaren is based. They have a beautiful building. I mean, really nice. And but go to Woking and come out of the train station. You'll see there's these shuttle buses that pick up the staff to go and work at the McLaren building. And anyway, when you come out of the stations, walk around Woking, especially the residential areas, and you find it's full of Asian people predominantly. But then you look at the McLaren Formula One team. I mean, how many Asians do you see there? How many people of a diverse ethnic background do you see in the whole of Formula One? What about Sky? The broadcaster, Sky Formula One, Sky Sports Formula One. Look at all of their presenters. They've got a photograph with all of them, right? Discount the guy called Karun, or Karun, I think his name is. Discount him because he's not even part of their photograph. He just seems to be a guest they bring on from time to time. But no diversity except for 2 females. So when some people talk about diversity, what they refer to is male and female diversity. They don't actually mean ethnic diversity. So, so this is something that Lewis Hamilton has been struggling against. He's also wearing that rainbow helmet. Now, as a Muslim, I don't support this rainbow helmet idea. Or when I say rainbow helmet, Muslims do not, what's the word? Well, living in the UK, you have to support um, the LGBT community and their rights. You can't discriminate. Muslims aren't in a position to discriminate anyway. But that's not something that you're going to teach your children, is it? That, you know, you have to respect every way of life. Well, we do have to respect, we have to tolerate it, because that's part of the, you could say, the social contract, but we don't love it. We don't respect it in that sense. Yeah, the rainbow helmet. So, yeah, the question is, well, the point I'm trying to get at is, Lewis Hamilton was on his way to win that championship. He was in the lead. He had 4 cars between him and Max Verstappen. This guy, Michael Massey, the race director, they call him, right? He's not even part of any team. He decides to let these cars that were between Max and Lewis get out of the way, and then get rid of the safety car, knowing that Max Verstappen is going to win. So you had 2 particular competing positions in Formula One. One wants a new world champion, a young, dynamic, fresh person to sort of be the new face of Formula One. When you look at Lewis Hamilton, how old is he? 36? I don't know. Maybe he's reaching his 40s. The demographic, or his age group, is sort of not the demographic they're going to want to be targeted. So they're going to try and want to move to a younger person, someone like Max Verstappen. That makes sense, right? He's going to be the new generation. But it should be a fair, like in the wild, you have bears. Because I saw a documentary on bears. You see a big bear and another big bear. This bear comes along to try and take over the pride. It has to defeat the established bear. If it doesn't freely and fairly defeat the established bear, he has no right to take over the tribe or the family or whatever it is that's there. Same thing with lions. But what we saw in that Formula One race was Michael Massey interfere with the result, basically picking his own winner. So it wasn't Max Verstappen winning by virtue of his or his team's effort. And this is all you heard afterwards from the stupid Sky pundits, that oh, Max Verstappen deserved it. No, he didn't deserve it. Hamilton deserved it. Are you saying they both deserved it? So now another question is, and also you get all these other people that hate Lewis. Hamilton is probably the least loved Formula One world champion ever. Maybe outside Damon Hill. Damon Hill wasn't loved very much. But yeah, he is hated by Alonso, can't stand him. Jenson Button can't stand him. These Sky commentators don't like him at all. Nico Rosberg, he was another one that robbed Lewis Hamilton and then ran away because he knew he couldn't do it again. Yeah, so Mercedes, his own team, ensured that Lewis Hamilton lost that season. So it's not the first time. So why did Lewis have to go through that? Is it racism? Is that all it is? Is it race? Is there some Bernie Ecclestone still, can't stop talking about Lewis in a negative way. He's so happy that Max won. But the good thing is Mercedes have put in 2 appeals. Let's see the result of these. But Lewis was very magnanimous in his losing, if you want to call it that. He accepted it. He went over to his opponents. He shook their hands and hugged them and congratulated them. He also stayed behind on the podium during the celebrations. Now, where was Valtteri Bottas? What kind of teamwork? He managed to ensure that Mercedes won the Constructors' Championship, but he didn't do enough to help Lewis be the champion. They're both in sort of equal equipment. He should have been able to stop Verstappen in his tracks. like you saw Perez try to do when Hamilton was trying to overtake him. Was it Perez? The other Red Bull driver. He was trying to stop him. He was interfering with Lewis's advancement down the field. So why isn't Bottas doing that? Could be a number of reasons. Maybe he's still upset that he got bullied out of his job at Mercedes by George Russell. That could be the reason. So, but then why does he hate Lewis Hamilton? He made sure Mercedes won, but he didn't care that Lewis Hamilton won. Another issue I see is that when Lewis Hamilton's contract was being renegotiated at the beginning of the year, there was constant talk about his salary being too high. He should take a lower salary. So the question I'm going to ask, have you ever heard the salary being described as too high when the person is white? Why is it only discussed when the man is black? Why is it only an issue that his salary is too high if he's black? But if he's white, nobody cares. They'll pay him as much as you can afford. That's interesting, isn't it? It's worth asking these questions. Yeah, I heard that there's a trial going on right now. These students in Bristol who toppled the statue of Coulston, they've been taken to court because what they did was a crime, apparently. Toppling that statue of the slave trader. Anyhow, back to the topic. So, Formula One is racist, no doubt, obviously. Bernie Ecclestone and Damon Hill, Jenson Button, Martin Brundle, they all hate Lewis. The whole F1 establishment hates him. There's a few races that recognize his talent. George Russell gave a good comment on Twitter after the race.
Who's that 10? Who's that 10?
Yeah. So that was. There's more, but my mind's gone. Trying to remember what else I wanted to talk about on this topic. So yeah, Formula One, racism. Lewis Hamilton won. He's a true champion. Max Verstappen celebrating like as if he won and really deserved it. Come on, wake up. Him and Christian Horner and his wife Jerry from the Spice Girls. They were acting like, yeah, they've done something remarkable. No, they were gifted that championship. What are you celebrating for? How would you celebrate if you knew that you didn't deserve the win? It's like boxing. You got these corrupt judges, especially in the Olympics. Would you celebrate if you knew that your victory was handed to you and you didn't earn it? But they're celebrating like as if they've done something that deserves celebration. Alaikum salam, Ishmael. So that, I think there's more I wanted to say on it. There's a lot of more interesting sort of bits and pieces to this story. So throughout the season, the judging has been inconsistent by this so-called steward or race director. And before I forget, part of the blame has to go to Toto Wolff, our German Mercedes team owner, because at the start of the season, he was a little bit arrogant. He didn't seem to really care about his team's performance this season. He thought, we're going to win. We're light years ahead of the rest of the competition. And his focus and all the questions he was dealing with were to do with next season when the design changes are going to come into play. So the whole Formula One package is going to change. New regulations, new sorts of car designs. And that seemed to be his focus on preparing for next year. He didn't seem to think this year was going to be a problem. Also, throughout the season, he lost key staff members who left Mercedes and went to work for Red Bull. Some intellectual property is going to obviously get lost over there. And then you had these mind games being played by the different team owners, or not owners, but leaders. So you had the constant badgering of the race director by people like Christian Horner and his name Marco Hulk. Sorry. Yeah, so this year we got to hear all of this badgering over the radios by the team owners. And it wasn't particularly a good thing to witness. Although it was nice to actually hear it. Yeah, you saw the dirty racing from Max Verstappen. And all he had to do, by the way, so some of you might be thinking, why didn't Hamilton, block Verstappen on that final turn just before he overtook Hamilton? Why didn't Hamilton come on the inside and block him? Well, he took the risk of Verstappen crashing into him and then not being able to finish the race. And in that circumstance, Verstappen wins. So he had to do everything he could just to avoid being hit by Verstappen. Yeah. So I'm just calling it out as I see it. Verstappen and all of his supporters, they robbed Lewis, and they're not giving him the recognition that he deserves. Lewis Hamilton is the Michael Jordan of Formula One, or Formula One drivers. And then nobody supports the guy, not even his fellow countrymen. Like, you'll see articles of Ronnie O'Sullivan, one of the greatest snooker players ever, Tyson Fury, the current heavyweight world champion of boxing, and they all support Max Verstappen rather than Lewis Hamilton. They all say that Lewis Hamilton only wins because he has the best car. That's also nonsense, by the way. Okay, because there have been a number of occasions this season, and also every season, where Lewis Hamilton's car is not performing, it gets damaged, or he has poor tires, something goes wrong, yet he still manages to either win or come in the top 2, top 3. And that's his driving skill, not the car. Yet, anytime Max Verstappen fails to deliver, it's always, well, the Mercedes car is performing better than us today. Even Christian Horner said it during Sunday's race. He even said it himself. Oh, well, the Mercedes obviously have a better car than us today. What can we do? So they always say, well, Mercedes have a better car. But when Red Bull have a better car, you don't hear those excuses from Lewis. You don't hear that. Or do you? Actually, I may have had him say it once, that they had a better car. Yeah, that's true. But he doesn't blame his performance on that. Yeah. So Nikki Travis says, is it just racism? Okay, if it's not racism, what is it then? I think, there is one other thing, and I've already mentioned it. They're looking to sort of move on to the next generation. They're tired of this guy who's getting old now, Lewis Hamilton. Everybody knows him. Let's move on to the next generation, the new batch, the young guy, Max Verstappen. He's the face of Formula One. Right? So they lost patience with Lewis now. They want Max Verstappen. Yet Lewis didn't help himself with his Black Lives Matter support and pushing the whole. He also was the one that got them to start wearing the masks and introducing all of that COVID, what do they call it, quarantine stuff in Formula One, because he was following the NBA. So a lot of them were not happy with Lewis Hamilton. I'm just saying, what we witnessed was not fair. It was daylight robbery, and then you had these horrible people at Sky Sports Sky Sports F1, who were talking as though it was a fair fight between Lewis and Mercedes versus Red Bull and Max Verstappen. It wasn't. He got robbed, and not a single one of them called it out. Not a single one of them called it out. So what does that teach you if you're a part of this society and you're not white? Not just this society, but I suppose European society, or let's call it the West. Well, you can do everything to be the best you can be. And your best, you might be like Mozart, right? You might be the genius of your time. But the fact is, a person can come along who's white and say, I want what he's got, and it will be taken from you and given to him. That's the reality, right? That's what we witnessed. We witnessed the action, the actualization of racism publicly for the world to see. And not a single person called it out. Not Nico Stinkin Rosberg, not Jensen Button. None of them, not one of these commentators called it out. All they would tell us is how great Michael Massey is. Michael Massey, he's under so much pressure. Oh, he's underpaid and overworked. He's a volunteer. All we heard was excuses for Michael Massey, which they produced before the race, during the race, and after the race. What, don't you think Lewis Hamilton was under pressure? Why do we care that Michael Massey was under pressure? Al Guapo says, same thing happened in 2008 when Glock, Hamilton's friend, let Hamilton go past on the last lap in Brazil, which made Felipe Massey lose the title. Well, you know, Verstappen was in that race too, right? If I remember correctly. I may be wrong. But yeah, I remember that final race in Brazil where Ferrari was celebrating and Lewis Hamilton, although he didn't win, won the championship. But that wasn't because of racism, was it, though, Al Guapo? That wasn't because of racism. And is it right to be silent on racism? Like, if you're somebody that benefits from racism, shouldn't you be speaking out against it? Why is it that why is it that people who are benefiting from racism are silent when they see it? People who benefit from racism don't speak out against it. They don't highlight it. They don't address it. They're just silent. Yeah, Verstappen was 11 in 2000. Yeah, you're right. And I feel sorry for all those other, racing drivers coming up in the ranks. Because every year you would expect some new talent to join, one or two new drivers to join the ranks, and one or two drivers to retire. But where's the new batch? So within like 5 years of nobody being recruited, that's a complete waste of careers for racing drivers who are coming up with the dream of racing in Formula One. They probably end up going to the electric Formula One. What's it called? I don't remember the name. EF or E-Racing, something like that. Just like when they extended golf courses to beat Tiger Woods, so Jack Nicklaus' major record don't get beaten. Now the man robs Lewis. Yeah, exactly, Reginder. So that's that. there was something else I wanted to say. So we've seen the race, the lack of support. Oh, and also Lewis Hamilton was supposed to, go for this BBC Sports Personality of the Year award. His nomination has been withdrawn. How can you withdraw his nomination? Because he didn't win the World Championship. Well, because he was robbed of it. Wouldn't, like, his magnanimity in defeat, his great, like, what's that poem of Kipling where he says, if you can face victory and defeat and treat those two imposters the same. Is that the words? I may have, I've forgotten the words exactly, but yeah, Rudyard Kipling had a nice poem where he said something like, if you can face victory and defeat and treat both imposters the same. So basically he's talking about a sense of stoicism where you don't get too overawed by victory or too happy, and you don't get too sad when you face defeat. And that's what Hamilton displayed. He showed you how to accept losing, even when you're robbed, even when the greatest, well, it was a complete injustice that you saw took place there. Yet he still took a moment in his car at the end. He took maybe a minute or two, longer than he normally takes, to gather himself. He came out the car. He went and congratulated, what's the guy's name? Verstappen. And then gave a nice speech and stayed on stage during the celebrations. That is how you conduct yourself. That is an example to be followed. I mean, he should win a trophy for that. More than you should win a trophy for winning. How he handled losing, especially when he was robbed, that was an example. That was something to appreciate. So I've been ignoring the comments here. It's what they want, what they. Top stream reaction. Nobody except you's been posting. Stop the still fam. Basically, should a red flag race so Lewis could change tires. Yeah, I did point out that our friend Toto was a little bit. He took his eye off the ball during the season. I think it's only when he saw how, if you see how aggressively Christian Horner came at Mercedes this season, like he wasn't begging any sort of friendship. He said, "Bun you and anyone that supports Mercedes." He actually said almost those words. His words were, "Well, if someone's behaving like an ass, I'm going to call them an ass." That's what he said. He was talking about Damon Hill. Damon Hill practically apologized in the next interview. Yeah. So there's something else about that race.
I sit down. They just start to go slowly.
So yeah. Now, let's see what's going to happen with this appeal. And all these commentators are saying, well, it would leave a bad, nobody wants to win a race like that. So, yeah. So I expect the F1 organization is going to reject the appeal. That would leave Mercedes in a position where they have to take it to the High Court of all this. Can you believe they brought their own Queen's Counsel, QC lawyer, to the race? That's how deep they go into these regulations. But when you think there's millions of pounds on the line, because the championship and all the sponsorship deals will go to the winner. So there's a lot of money on the line. Anyhow, I don't know if anybody's got anything to add to that. To do, just type it in the chat or jump on. That's basically my view on the Formula One Grand Prix World Championship event that took place in Abu Dhabi 2021. Oh, and the racetrack was redesigned by the Indian ex-Formula One driver, Karun, I don't remember his surname. It's a big surprise because Emiratis and have this special bond and relationship with India. Yeah. Court of Arbitration of Sport. Harris must overturn the result of all integrity lost in Formula One. You cannot arbitrarily change the rules and protocol. Well, Reginder, what they're saying is that there's another rule that says no matter what the rules and the regulations, just the fact, ultimately the director's discretion overrules all of the regulations. So if he makes a decision, it doesn't matter what's in the regulations. His decision is what's binding. So although that may be arguable, I'm sure the QC will say, what's the reasonableness of his decision then? Because he can't just make a decision to say, okay, let's stop the race, take a break for half an hour, then come back. That would be acceptable then. No, we have to look at the reasonableness of his decision and are his decisions consistent with the regulations? Because if they were, then Mercedes would have planned their strategy according to the regulations, not some guy who decides to change his mind during the course of a race. Well, yeah, the race director did decide the fate of the race. That is what happened, Regina. That is exactly what happened. And on over the radio, they're manipulating the race, man. So Lewis Hamilton himself said it. George Russell said the result was ridiculous on Twitter after the race. But Alonso was very happy. He hates Hamilton so much. Mick Schumacher's happy because his dad's record. Anyhow, let's see what happens. Now, people on the news, so in the papers, they're also saying that Lewis Hamilton asked Toto not to file the appeal, or at least to withdraw it. I think, yeah, I can understand Lewis Hamilton doing that. But Toto should say, okay, thank you for your opinion. We're going to press on anyway, and we're going to fight it, no matter what. Yeah, and also during the interview at the end, Lewis Hamilton was asked about next season. You know, does he look forward to fighting in the championship next season? And Hamilton was kind of like unsure about coming back next season. He was hinting that he was looking at retirement. I mean, what's the point of racing if you're going to get robbed? What's the point of performing so well if all your success is going to be wiped away and erased unfairly? You can understand him wanting to quit based, on what happened on that day. You can also understand him wanting to quit on, having achieved his record, his dream of having the most Formula One wins in history. It would be 8 wins. Okay, so he could say, I'm now the greatest Formula One driver in history. I'm ready to retire. He could do that. Maybe that was his intention coming into the season. As you get older, it gets more difficult to compete at this stage, especially with younger drivers with faster reactions and the competition catching up with you. So you can understand him not wanting to go through the grind of all the training and preparation and wanting to, settle down now. So what's the reason he doesn't want to continue? Is it the injustice, or is it just the wearing down of the body, etc.? Recovery from Your training takes a while. It takes longer when you get older. You hope he doesn't retire, Tash. I think he should retire. He should say, forget F1, bun you. Like, this is... Because let's say he goes through next season winning all everything, and then at the critical moments, they rob him again. What's the point? Just so that they can say, look at Verstappen. Not only did he win, he won against one of the greatest drivers in history, Lewis Hamilton. So that makes Verstappen's victory look even better. They're not mentioning the fact that he got assistance from a race director and a bunch of people in Formula One. There's no mention of that. So Lewis Hamilton remaining is purely going to prop up someone like Verstappen. That's all it will do. Like when Rosberg won. That was Hamilton's season. They switched his engines. They switched his team over. They gave Rosberg his engineer whilst Hamilton was winning. So all of his aces in his card deck were handed over to Rosberg. And Rosberg came along and beat Hamilton. Oh, well. And then they bring in someone like Rosberg. He's got the nerve to show his face on Sky Formula One as though he's some worthy world champion. And to this day, Lewis Hamilton doesn't speak to Nico Rosberg. No surprise, would you? Never has a race started after a safety car until all back markers unlapped fam, as far as I know, says Reginda. Yeah. Oh yeah, besides that, if you look at last week's race, where was it? It was in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. So that was, I mean, Saudi Arabia has hosted the electric Formula One, whatever that race is called, the e-racing tournament, e-Grand Prix. But they've never hosted a Formula One race in the past. Although they used to sponsor the Formula One cars back in the days, what was it, the 1990s or the 80s, around that time. There was a really nice Formula One car. It had the Saudi logo all over it, Saudi Airlines logo. But anyway, this was their first Formula One. It was in Jeddah, the street circuit. And what was my point going to be? Yeah, I've gone off piste.
Literally just a 10-minute walk down.
Let me see. Sorry. Formula. Yeah, so in Jeddah. What happened in Jeddah? Didn't Hamilton win in Jeddah? I think he won in Jeddah. I was going to say something, but it slipped my mind. So apologies for that. What else we got? F1 Racing is dead, Sam, says Jordan M. Yeah. Real life. Like Baroness Farsi found out, tokenism don't really lead nowhere good. Yeah. I suppose Sajid Javid is an example of that. And they're talking about a new prime minister now. I mean, they're starting to get the daggers out to go after Boris. Who do you think would be the next prime minister? Is it possible that Priti Patel could be prime minister? Or would it be Michael Gove or Jeremy Hunt? Like, who realistically would be the next prime minister? Shame I forgot what I was going to say about the Formula One. It was a good point. That's just slipped my mind. So yeah, as Jordan said, fun Formula One, it's dead. You know, it's an unjust, corrupt organization, a racist organization. Yeah, it's awful. Not just the organization, but all of the teams. Yeah, all of the teams too. Reginda says a fake Jordan. Is it a fake one? Oh, okay. I'll just keep an eye out. Ciao, ciao, Ralphie and all non-Muslims. So yeah, anybody's got anything to add, just type it in the chat or jump on. Ibo says, Assalamu alaikum. You okay, brother? React. Long time no seen. Wa alaikum salam, Ibo. How are you doing? I'm good, thank you. Not sure I recognize you. Your name. Smart Agenda made show about Lewis Hamilton. 2 days later, Hamilton was robbed. Is it? Oh gosh. So what was Ibo saying about Lewis Hamilton? Oh yeah, what I was going to say about Jeddah. You know this what's his name? Sebastian Vettel. He also hates Lewis Hamilton. He always comes over to him and taps his shoulder like he respects him, but he can't stand the guy, right? He hates Lewis Hamilton. So but let me tell you something. I was in Abu Dhabi, right? I went to the racetrack. I met the guy in charge of the racetrack, and he told me, like, even his staff, nobody likes Lewis Hamilton. Like, people don't like him. They find him, what's the word, slightly toffee-nosed or spoiled, a bit standoffish. They don't like him. So that's even with people who are not part of the racing teams. Yeah. Yeah, what I was going to say about Sebastian Vettel, right? He, as well as being a loser, right? He went to Saudi Arabia last week, and he started a new charity or a new foundation whose goal is to help women get into motorsport racing, right? Yeah. So he's gone to Saudi Arabia and he's trying to teach them how to treat women. That's his, he's telling them basically that you mistreat women, you don't look after them. So I'm going to show you how women should be treated. I'm sure that would have been a condition he put. So the only way I'll come to Saudi Arabia to race is if, I can see they're doing more for women. They'll say, okay, well, show us how to do it. So he'll come over and start his charity. Now, where is Sebastian Vettel's charity to help women get into Formula One and race against him? How many women do you see on Sebastian Vettel's team or on any team in Formula One? Where is Sebastian Vettel's charity for that situation? Like, he's only got noise or heat for people who aren't white, the uncivilized part of the world population. Yeah, they need civilizing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Saudi Arabia is perfect in how they treat women or foreigners or laborers, etc. At the same time, just showing you how these people are quite selective. And Saudi Arabia should have said, "Go away, Vettel. We don't need you here. If you don't want to come, go." And then you had Lewis Hamilton wearing his rainbow helmet in Saudi Arabia. Right. And they paid, I think, was it Bottas or Kimi Räikkönen? I think it was Bottas who was asked the question. No, or Vettel even. Somebody was asked a question about Saudi Arabia and the Formula One race being held there. And they said, well, they've got 90 million, F1 have 90 million reasons. Yeah, it was Verstappen who said it. 90 million good reasons why they're going to build the track in Jeddah. So Saudi Arabia is spending $90 million on that to host that race. Well, alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Awliya al-mu'minin, or awliya lil-mu'minin. So yeah, it's just double standards, hypocrisy, racism, injustice, like left, right, and center from all directions. It's just, yeah, crazy. So yeah, I feel a bit sad for Lewis Hamilton. Well, Lewis Hamilton is the greatest Formula One driver in history. I mean, you can't argue against that. He is the best. I mean, who is better than him? Why did Niki Lauda choose him? Why couldn't Nico Rosberg perform at Lewis Hamilton's level? Yeah. Again, you know, everything we do, all our successes are from Allah. So on the one hand, yeah, we say Lewis Hamilton is the greatest, yeah, but at the same time, we acknowledge that everything, all of our successes are from Allah. Now, some people will say, why do you care about Formula One? It's just a sport. It's a waste of time. Well, it's a sport that generates a lot of money. And it also pushes the boundaries of performance. When you push the boundaries of performance, you push what's possible, the realms of possibility. And not only that, along with exceeding levels of performance comes with the requirement to build even better measures of safety. So, for example, the seatbelt. I'm sure that came from motorsports. Along with if your car goes faster than any other car, you're going to need better brakes that can stop that car. So the performance of your safety measures will need improving as well. So a lot of road safety technology that we have in our cars today actually come from motorsports. Okay, so Father Sunglasses, are you saying that that video from Smile to Jannah was showing Lewis Hamilton in a sort of negative light when it comes to Islam? Yeah, that's fine. Well, fair enough. But, you know, they're all kuffar at the end of the day. I mean, which one of them is saying that Tawheed needs to be established? None of them are saying that. All I'm saying is that what we witnessed was even somebody that is part of the system, you know, preaching LGBT and the rainbow flag, even somebody who's doing all of that is still not accepted. He's still an outsider. He's still oppressed. So sacrifice your values, suck up to your oppressor all you want. You're just going to get spat out at the end. Actually, you need a hair transplant. Thanks, Unknown X. The good old days of no speed traps are long gone. Welcome to 20 mile per hour zones and big lumps in the road. Reactionary just shut that down, said Tawheed. Drop mic. I appreciate your opinion. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your comments. Unknown X, where's a good place to get a hair transplant? Since you're recommending it. There was a brother that did get a hair transplant. There was a guy from that used to go Speaker's Corner. I forgot his name though. He used to wear Cleveland Cavaliers basketball jersey or vest. He actually went to Turkey and got a hair transplant. Yeah. Reactionary things look sticky pun you me dog. Okay, thank you. What languages do you speak? English, Arabic, what others? Okay. Yeah, it was Ahmed, isn't it? Yeah, that was the brother who had his hair transplant. So anyhow, I don't plan to stay on much longer. It's nearly 1 hour. Let me see, I'll give it another 6 minutes, inshallah. Look at these nasty comments, man. Sorry, unknown X. That has to be a timeout. There we go. You can Farsi also, Brennan, you can Farsi. English, Arabic, and Farsi, mashallah. Yeah. Job done, reaction. You overturned F1 decision with 9 viewers. Yeah, no, it wasn't really for views or anything. I just wanted to express my views on what I witnessed there. And I didn't really like what happened. So if you all appreciate fairness in competition and on the public stage, yeah, so go to the Formula One, what do you call it, channels, and type in the comments that Lewis Hamilton got robbed. Yeah, just type it, show some support for, not for him, but against injustice. Yeah, you should support people against injustice. Good show, reactionary still. Yeah, it needed a full show. Really big up, fam. Big up to you, Regina. Thanks for the comment. Yeah, so if anybody remembers the Rudyard Kipling poem, so if you can face victory and defeat and treat both those imposters the same, that's how I remembered it. If you got the correct wording, just let me know. Next, he'll be attending the major horse race events. Okay, so that's it. I've got nothing else to say on that topic, and I'll leave it there, inshallah. Reactionary, 82% of Sky F1 polls says Lewis robbed. Check it out. Thanks for letting me know, Regina. I'll check it out. Where did you see that poll? Was it on their website? Where was it? Although it's 82% of the Sky poll, let's say 100% of their pundits believe that Verstappen deserved the win. So 1 minute to go, and then I'll shut the stream down. It's on Sky Sports F1 website. It says Regina. Okay. Schumacher, Prost, Senna, Mansell, Hill, Hakkinen, Villeneuve, Piquet, Lauda, amongst others in his era. Who did Hamilton come across in his era? Yeah, that's a good question, Hokuto Shinken. Let's see. He defeated Alonso, right? To this day, I've met a couple of these Formula One directors, and they all try to tell me that the greatest driver in our sport is Alonso. He just happens to not be with the best car or the best team. Yeah. Hamilton defeated Alonso. Well, did he win that season? I don't think he won, did he? But he was clearly the better driver. Jenson Button joined his team, and they supported Button over Hamilton. But who did he defeat? I suppose the Ferraris performed quite well in one of those seasons, or two of those seasons. Don't try to react, Pefi. Alonso, please. All right, so yeah, true, I suppose. Who did he beat? I mean, Mercedes, right, during the Mercedes era, I suppose Mercedes were really dominant. They were a step ahead. There was no real competition. I think Ferrari was for one of those seasons or two of those seasons. And during the McLaren years, I don't remember who was competing against them during that time. Yeah, I'd have to go back. That's a bull argument. You could say that, go any sport, soccer, NFL, whatever, you can never compare errors. Worst error literally for views and drivers is Button, Hamilton, Alonso error right after Schumi. Yeah, true. Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. Someone jump on the show, carry the show on, please. Well, if they don't, I'm going to jump off. I've already gone 1 minute over what I planned. Bird Nest, Brother Kenny's views, not so impressive anymore. Finished. Who's Kenny? Yeah, I'm a little bit behind. I haven't been following the Hangouts scene recently, so don't know what I've been missing. Kenny Bomber Live TV. Yeah, okay. All right, I'm going to end the show now. Thanks everyone for joining me, and speak soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.